there's so much in Buffalo of out of hospital birth transfers happening, which is really atrocious because there's really only one main provider for those right now. We actually have doctors that, because doctors, and that's something everybody looking at out of hospital birth needs to learn and absorb and make it the reality of your life, is accepting the fact that midwives don't take accountability and responsibility for what they do to our children. The hospitals and the doctors do. That there have been so many issues with out of hospital birth in my region lately that doctors are having problems because it's starting to impact the cost of doing business for them, the cost of doing business for the hospital. There's so many babies now being transferred from one hospital to the other to get cooling treatments because of an out of hospital birth attempt that went catastrophically wrong. And our doctors, the people who saved my life, could face liability for what happened to me if my midwife decides to be nasty enough. And if she decides to say things about like, well, he was part of the care too. No, my baby was dead before your people ever transferred me. But that doctor is going to be held more responsible than you unless I fight for you to be held responsible.
So that is actually already happening. In Johns Hopkins in DC, there was a $55 million lawsuit that was done against the doctor because a midwife brought the baby in, brought the mother and the baby, and she didn't have a C-section quick enough. And they blamed that on the hospital. It was within 2 hours, but it wasn't quick enough. And $55 million. And we've also looked into, my husband found out, did some research that one doctor, he's not even allowed to do anything with home births or anything because his insurance will not allow it because of it happening. So that's another thing, is that it gets to a point where they might not even be able, that doctor might not even be able to help save your life because legally they are not allowed to with their insurance.
That's my doctor, the one that did my C-section. He's had so many transfers from home birth. We don't have birth centers here, but just home birth going into his hospital that he's treated and tried to take care of. And the lawsuits end up stacking up on the hospital and on the doctor, his own insurance, because they have to have liability insurance. They have to have insurance to cover themselves. The hospital and his insurance said, you cannot take any more out of hospital birth transfers. When they come, even if you are the on-call doctor, you have to call another doctor to come in because you can't anymore. You will lose your insurance, which a doctor has to have insurance. They cannot practice. No medical person can be inside a hospital without insurance. So he would lose his insurance and he would also lose his rights to be at that hospital too. The hospital would have to remove him out of there over that. There's been so many that just come run across because he was more midwife friendly. Come see me, I'll take care of it. But when they get there, the train wreck is so bad. Like he's just playing catch up. And then the teams and the NICU and all this, they're just playing catch up, trying to save everybody. But yes, they have had people where they're not suing the midwife, which there's nothing you can do here anyways, but they start coming back after the doctor. Like it's a really, really terrible thing that's going on. And it's sad to say that you will not get refused going to a hospital, and doctors and the medical teams will take care of you. But
your midwife might cost them their license.
Yeah, I was going to say, sadly, we're looking at a day and age where the hospitals and the doctors and the medical staff have to protect themselves from what can happen with your midwife doing stuff, or what people do of like, with trauma and with whatever, they start blaming the hospital. Like, oh, they did that to me. If I've actually heard this is real. If I wouldn't have had a C-section, my kid would be alive today. This is what I have heard from other people. And that is what other people have told me about my own personal experience, that if I didn't have that emergency C-section, my son Gavin would be here. No, that's not how that works. But yes, I have been told that over the years by midwives, by doulas, by home birthers. So this is a whole nother level that, unfortunately, because we don't have the backup of the laws to go after and deal with midwives and accountability, who takes the responsibility? any medical person. You know that the people can sue the ambulance that picks you up. I don't know if you know that, but you can sue the EMT that comes and puts you on the gurney. Oh, he did that wrong. Yes, that must be why my kid didn't make it, or that must be why there was birth trauma because you came to my house and took me out. This is real. This is what's happening, and it's disgustingly horrible because these people really are trying to save your life and your baby's life.
And on insurance,
fetus.
another thing to know is, I didn't know this, but not every doctor, yes, maybe at a hospital, but not every doctor at a private practice is covered by insurance. They don't have to be. I spoke on the phone with someone very high up at Care First, and she told me that every provider that they recommend is covered by, like, they do have to have malpractice insurance, and they are completely vetted for felonies, background checks. But people like my midwife, who is still getting covered by insurance, even though she's a direct entry midwife, she doesn't have to have insurance, which I never knew was a thing. I said, well, why are you covering someone that doesn't have insurance? And she said, it's not us, it's the law. The law says that she is considered a licensed professional, so she can do a claim for insurance, but that doesn't mean that she's worth anything. Versus where you have someone, if you go on the Care First website and you're looking for a doctor and they recommend that doctor, then they have been vetted. They have been, they're checked for background criminal stuff, where Karen was not checked, even though she had felony charges. So that's another important thing to know.
It's very important. That's where it gets really confusing and messy. And even states that do have licensed midwives, a lot of them do not carry insurance. They do not have malpractice insurance. And then the states that do require it, like Florida, for example, it is required there for them to have it. They get the bare minimum. I mean, the bottom of the barrel of these little companies that, no nurse or doctor is using these companies. And those, when something happens and you try to go after them, now this is a licensed midwife. They had their own birth center. They might even be a nurse midwife. They have their malpractice insurance. They have things in order, but because of state law, you get an attorney. He looks at everything, says, sorry, your court fees is not even going to cover if you're going to win. If you were to win, us just filing and then just me and going up in front of a judge, you're not going to get anything out of this. It happens all the time. Riva is not here today, but her story's on here. She's one of those mothers. Athena, who started a bunch of stuff down in Florida, changing laws and all that stuff. Athena is actually an attorney. Okay. She's an attorney that had a home birth, and guess what? Same thing. She pursued whatever, and she ended up going out of pocket to pursue her midwife to go to absolutely nothing happening. So even in our states that has licensed midwife, carry malpractice, all this stuff, they have loopholes and ways around it. So they do not have to pay us anything, but we have to face the consequences. We have to go through and find an attorney that will accept us, that will take us, which is hard enough. Just finding one person to listen to our story, to say, I'll take you. Then we got to find sometimes the funding, because it's not free to have them come and pay and be your legal advisor. Then you have to deal with court stuff. If you have to face them in court, or any documents that you have to pull up, and then they have to go over all this stuff. It is all this stuff. And then at the end of all this battle that could take years, nothing happens. Nothing happens. It gets dismissed.
$60,000 too. That's just what they told us. $60,000 just to file, just to get to that point.
Yeah.
And midwives hide their assets. Oh,
yes, they do.
Yeah, they hide their assets. So they put their properties in their children's names or their husband's names, and they basically are nowhere. So it's really hard to go after them because they hide their assets.
Karen has over $1 million in assets, but because her husband is on all of the houses, no one can touch them. So she's worth nothing.
Because she's on nothing, right? Yeah, same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how mine filed bankruptcy. She put everything off into family members' names and everything else, but looked like they had nothing. And I got an attorney that was very reasonable and very intelligent about it, where he was like, we're not going to go for like a huge max thing because you're not going to get it from them. He's like, we're going to go for something that's more reasonable where she can do payments every month that a judge will approve. Because that's the thing. You just want it to go through. You want an approval. It's not about the money. Even if she gives you $5, like it doesn't matter. It's just, you want to go through. Exactly. You want to go through to be like, look, this happened. This is what she did, that kind of thing. So he was like, this is how we're going to play it. So he did it of like a basic, you're going to pay the attorney fees kind of thing. You're going to pay like the filing, you're going to pay whatever, and you're going to pay back the doctor. Because it was like, the transfer stuff, you're going to pay for the hospital, the doctor. So he added up of what it would be with us. Basically, we're not getting anything out of it. Like literally, that's what it was. He was like, I just want you to pay back and face accountability of that's what it was. And so it was this very small number compared to what it could have been, because he could have been asking for all this money, because he was like, this is the easiest way for us to go in front of a judge and the judge actually pass it, where he was like, this seems reasonable to me. This doesn't seem like this. It seems like they just want things taken care of. They want things handled and accountability.
And to me, that's why I try, like, to me, I'm to the point where I don't even care about winning anymore. I'm to the point where if she's in court and she's paying a lawyer, she's not working. She can't take all these clients. Like Madison said, yours did 150 last year. Karen does a lot too, because she does all the Amish. So she can't be there if she's constantly in court or she's constantly doing this or that. So that's what I'm doing as much as I can, because she took my life away and my daughter. So this is the best I can do and it's not about her, like making, of course I want to make her life not great, but it's about all the midwives, because they're all doing it. Like you all have different midwives that all have done stuff to you. So it's about making it bigger than that, but starting with the one person I can.